Good morning. Welcome to Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket. George DiGianni, Train Station Fitness Show. Happy 2015. So it is the All About You show. I decided that the best way to come out of the gate is to have specialists on the air to help you with any concerns, questions you may have about your fitness. Remember, for those who have listened in the past, the All About You show is about you. We have no prepared topic because you are the topic. You designed the show. You designed the show. And I'm talking to... So do I have to do this whole thing over, Dave? No, okay. Dave didn't have the right mic on at a certain point. So we're good to go. So I'm
You were on the whole time.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was talking into the abyss. Lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. What's important is you. Call us 888-787-1310. 888-787-1310. Why should you call? Let me tell you why. Dr. Jeremy Webster, familiar on the show many times here in the studio. He's looking fatter than ever. We'll have to help you with that.
It's a new year, though.
It's a new year, so we'll change all that now. Samantha, my love, who will not be talking, but she's in studio. Mo Brosette, Coach Mo.
Good morning, El Morning.
And also Dr. Mary Kerr. Dr. Mary Kerr is a board-certified medical doctor, physician medicine, and rehabilitation specialist, and internal medicine. So she kind of knows her stuff. But what I like about Dr. Kerr, let me just boast about you for a moment, is Dr. Kerr has gone outside of the narrow-minded ways of what she's been taught in medicine, in medical school, to recognize that she wanted to move away from just preventative care and help people, or away from reactive care more into preventative care. And she has a great knowledge of nutrition and exercise and just happens to align with burst training.
Hey,
Absolutely.
How about that? We have a medical doctor who understands.
Winter chicken dinner.
All right, so that just set the tone for the show. Mo said winter chicken dinner, and I think we're going to have about 5-year-olds listening, and we'll have a new built-in audience. So coming up next, it's All About You show. Call us because you are designing the show. I do want to lead off with something, and I'll share it with you guys coming up next. 2015 trends. Exercise trends, maybe even eating trends. We'll talk about eating cockroaches. I think Samantha wanted to bring that up. So
I did.
Yeah, so we'll discuss all of this coming up next, unless you decide you want to go in a different area. 888-787-1310. 7-Eleven Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket. George DiGianni, Train Station Fitness Show, along with my team of people, Dr. Jeremy Webster, Dr. Mary Kerr, and Mo Brosette, Coach Mo. We're here doing the All About You show. 888-787-1310 if you want to call us with any questions, concerns about your health, your fitness trends. Do you align with the new trends, and do you care about them? Let's start with fitness trends of 2015. One of the things that I saw that really stood out, I don't think it is all of a sudden birthed and adopted in 2015 as much as it has been over the last couple of years, is body weight exercises.
Yes, I love that one. It's something that's simple that you can do really anywhere, and that's kind of the point of the whole trend. That's something I give to my clients that travel all the time.
One of the things I don't understand, trends usually come and go. Why in the world would body weight exercises come and go? They should never have gone out in the first place. Now, I understand marketing. You got the Thigh Master, and you have the Cybex machines and all that stuff through marketing. But those type of machines have made us weaker, not stronger. They may have made us stronger in certain smaller muscles, but they created imbalances, and we think we're doing a good job.
And body weight training is not easy. It's hard.
Yeah. But
It's
I think
difficult compared to laying on a bench and doing presses. Push-ups are a lot harder. You have to stabilize your entire core. It's just more taxing on the body, which is good.
It doesn't translate to people playing football either. So if you're on the line, you're a lineman, and you don't practice that type of movement and resistance on the line. All you do is bench, and you could bench 1,000 pounds. Let's just be goofy here for a moment. That will not translate to you being strong on the field. And so, Dr. Kerr, people as they get older, I know you're a rehab pain specialist. As people get older, they become weaker, especially if they're not exercising, and we have more falls. The reason we have more falls is not necessarily, even though this is a truth, not necessarily because of osteoporosis running rampant, because that seems to be more of a symptom of, being weaker and not being able to turn or maneuver yourself in a way to stop yourself from falling or catch yourself in a way that you don't fall and break a hip, a knee, and so on.
Right. Well, I think what's happening is people are becoming increasingly sedentary, and they don't even realize it sometimes. And as you age, it becomes more and more difficult to build muscle. That's just part of the aging process. So I think weight resistance exercise is very important for osteoporosis prevention and for fall prevention. And I think it's very, very important. But I think if you start with a hardcore training session, people who are already down the line with the muscle loss can't really perform at those levels. So sometimes just burst training, just very gentle. Even if you do what's called peak 8 training, which is 20 seconds of as fast as you can possibly go, which may be really fast for some and not so fast for others, but 20 seconds of as hard as you can go, and then 100 seconds of recovery. Do that 8 times. That's a good way to start. It takes 15 minutes. It's
right.
Not,
it's all
it's
relative.
not a huge commitment. And
Your fast is different than my fast,
Yeah.
but we're both putting out 100%.
Yeah, and the great thing about that type of exercise is it's so well studied for weight loss and for improving insulin sensitivity, which is really the key to losing weight and really to health, is balancing your insulin.
888-787-1310, all about you show. You guide the show. Call us with what you think either the next fitness trend is, what works for you, what's not worked for you in the past, what changes you would like to make. We have a panel of experts up here, Dr. Mary Care, Dr. Jeremy Webster, Coach Mo, and myself. Fitness trends in your mind, Dr. Webster. 2015.
You put me on the spot.
No. Okay, let's do it differently. Instead of what's in the news or being reported, what do you think is best moving forward? Maybe something we've discussed in the past that would be good for us to adopt.
Well, I think we just still need to look at the human being as it was 5,000 or 10,000 years ago. If you can keep that
So you
in
want us to
mind-
have hair all over our bodies, not shave,
we didn't have hair all over our bodies.
drag
5,000
our
or
women
10,000
by
years
hair,
ago.
by their hair.
We had hair all over our bodies in the 70s. That's not 10,000 years ago.
Weren't they dragging women by their
Yeah,
hair?
probably so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's start thinking about what mankind ate and how we moved and how we acted 5 or 10,000 years ago before industry changed all these things, before industry changed our food supply.
But
Start thinking about-
can we blame industry? This is where we get into this
Well, no.
debate. Can we blame? And let me just say where I'm coming. We have hundreds of millions of more people, billions of people. We didn't have it before. We can't just go out and get our food that way. We need it manufactured for us.
Yes, but we need to approach as close as we can to the natural way of eating the way we ate before industry came in and completely changed the way we ate. There was no such thing as fields of grains. There was definitely no such thing as grains that were processed and refined highly. And that's what a lot of people eat as the majority of their diet today. And that goes completely against the whole genetic makeup of a human being.
I want to understand what you're saying. Are you saying, Dr. Jeremy Webster, that it is wrong for us to have chicken that is grown here and sent to China to be processed and then back here to eaten? Are you saying that? Because I want to go on record for that.
Maybe not.
What do you mean maybe not? Oh my God, that backfired on me.
We'll go on record and
It depends how it's
Oh
processed.
my God,
You have
that completely
culture.
backfired.
No. Just because it's shipped to China and processed doesn't mean it's processed poorly. It may be processed
What?
poorly, but it can be processed poorly here too.
I'm done talking to you. Who's our first
If
person,
they're
baby?
just-
I can't
if they're
sit on
just
my
slicing
glasses
up
on.
the chicken, it's fine.
JR in Fort Worth, you're on the ticket. Please straighten us out.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. How y'all doing?
Great, how are
Great,
you?
good
Did you have your
Yeah,
coffee
doing
this
wonderful.
morning?
Hey, I did. I'm glad to see y'all are up. I'm about the only one up here in the house, but I appreciate it. Hey, I'm 49 years old. I've been a truck driver for 23 years, and unfortunately, I developed type 2 diabetes, found out about 4 years ago, and even though I'm fairly strong, I noticed my cardio level has really, I helped my stepson move a couple of weeks ago, like it killed me.
Did you sound like Darth Vader when you finished?
Yes, I did. I was basically about to pass out, to be honest with you. But anyhow, to get to my point, the lifestyle that I used to live, a lot of fast food and such. Now I'm not so much in that environment anymore. I try to eat more healthy, like asparagus and more healthy vegetables, gluten-free type things, and things I'm really trying to keep my blood sugar down, okay? But I still struggle with that at times with spikes.
So what's your
Dr.
question, JR?
Well, what can I do to increase my cardio and to try to keep my blood sugar at a maintainable level instead of it spiking?
So before any of the panel of people answer that, you talked about strength, but you didn't discuss anything in your workout routine that dealt with endurance type training.
Right.
Do you do anything for that?
Just a little walking at times, and really not a whole lot.
Okay, so here, so with that, so JR, with that information, now that we know that, I'm going to let Coach Mo share with you not only the importance of what talk about VO2, so oxygen in the blood, and how someone who doesn't really perform endurance training can begin, since that is your specialty.
Absolutely.
And we'll let you go, JR.
Are you still a truck driver, you said?
No.
Well, no. Over the last 4 years, I've moved into insurance. So.
Okay, so you still, but you still sit a majority of your day.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Very much. Yes, sir.
And it's kind of funny because we just talked about body weight exercises and how that we need to get back to the basics. So what I do with someone like you is get you back to the basics of movement, what Dr. Webster was talking about. We need to get you to simply move. Trying to do a push-up for you would be cardiovascular activity.
Well, hold on. He said he's fairly strong and he does work out, but he's not
Right.
doing any endurance. So how do we get him to do that?
Yeah,
Begin
well,
that route?
you create the endurance with the strength training. So you try to have him do 15 to 20 kneeling push-ups, stand up, do an alternating reverse lunge, then go right back down and do a plank for 60 seconds.
So speak in layman's terms and tell him and everybody else who's listening what you just said, because that's really important.
Yeah.
Begin with
So you're going to be on your knees doing push-ups because that's where you're going to be most stable. And
About 20 and do them
let's get
fast.
you to do 20 with
All right.
good form, and you're going to do 20 of those, okay? And that might take you 30 seconds. It might take you 60 seconds, depending on your ability. Once you finish that 20, you immediately stand up, then you go into an alternating reverse lunge. So that's going to help engage your glutes, which is going to protect your back.
So stop
and
for a moment.
hamstrings.
JR, do you know what a reverse lunge is?
No, I do not. But
So I want you to go and I want you to enter that on YouTube or even
Yep.
anywhere on Google and look up what a reverse lunge is. What
Writing that down.
Coach Mo is
Right.
trying to share with you is you get down on your knees, or maybe if you're strong enough to do them on your toes, do 20 push-ups as fast as you possibly can. Then you would immediately stand up and you would do something called a reverse lunge. Look at what that is. How many each side?
We'll do 15 each side.
We'll do
right now.
15 each side, and then do you go back down and do your push-ups again?
Yeah, then you go right back down and do
How
the
many
push-up
sets?
again. We'll start you with 3 sets of that.
3 sets of that, and then you know what, JR? You go home. If you're home, you stop. You go you get some protein or amino acids and help yourself to recover. You would build upon that. We're giving a prescription here for people who
Yeah,
are
yeah,
listening,
right,
okay?
absolutely.
And then what? What's the next week?
Yeah, the next week, we're just going to keep you easy for the next week. We're going to do 4 sets.
So the same exact exercise as JR, but you'll now increase your sets. What you're doing is you're building up endurance without having to run a marathon, without having to get on a bike, without having to do these elliptical, goofy type of machines that make you think that you're actually getting fit,
Because
okay?
what we need to do also, you just said you helped your son move and it almost killed you. Well, we need to get you to be able to move.
Stuff, and he moved upstairs, and I could do the lifting, but as far as breath-wise and breathing towards the end, I was about to fall out.
So this idea that Coach Mo just gave you will help you significantly. We'll let you go, JR, okay? Thank you for the call.
George, I want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
The type of exercise Mode talked about is really crucial with this. If you have to feel the burn if you have diabetes. When you feel the burn, you're shifting into anaerobic metabolism, and you're burning pure sugar at that point. It's
Well, hold on,
crucial-
Dr. Webster.
It's
I'm
crucial
fat.
to feel a burn.
I don't want to burn carbohydrates.
Yes, you
I
do.
want to burn fat.
No. You want to burn sugar because then the rest of the day your body's going to prefer to burn fat
Right.
for energy. So that's the perfect combination. Burn sugar while you exercise, and you burn fat all day long.
And this
Keeps
is
your
what we've
sugar
been
under
discussing
control.
for a long time with burst training, the EPOC, exercise post-oxygen consumption, which is where after you perform an exercise routine like Mo mentioned, or like Dr. Webster and myself have mentioned, and Dr. Kerr already know about when it comes to burst training, you pull the sugar out of the muscle, you become a fat burner the rest of the day.
Nine
This is- go
nine
ahead.
times the fat burning per calorie burned of exercise.
Right.
So if you burn 100 calories doing aerobics versus 100 calories doing burst training, you burn 9 times more fat that day doing the 100 calories worth of burst training exercise.
Let's go to
9 times.
Trent in Shreveport. You are on the ticket.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for the show. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And lady, I apologize.
Thank
Um,
you.
Hey, real quick, a lot of my buddies are doing CrossFit, and they're all hooked on it. It's a thing to do. I'm not seeing a whole lot of physique transformation for the guys trying to add more muscle, burn fat, compared to me and my other group of buddies who are still sticking to the gym, hitting it hard in the weights, and doing our sprint cardio. Why is it more? Does it seem like it's more increasing athleticism versus physique transforming on the CrossFit side versus our traditional, what we prove in training ways? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you. You know, you bring up a good point. I want to just back off for a moment. Let's talk about the aesthetics for a moment. He looked at the aesthetics, that these people were not changing in a certain look, right?
Mhm.
But I'm sure they're changing on the inside, their ability to move certain ways, right? Lift certain weight, continue on exercising. So they are gaining benefit.
Mhm.
Then he talked about the people in the gym. And he also did talk about sprint training. Here's my view of that. I've talked about high intensity interval training, so HIIT, many times. Dr. Webster has, all of us here have, and we understand it. We've also talked about burst training. They're not the same animal. And what I mean by that is, one will keep your heart rate elevated for a long period of time. So people who perform in CrossFit will keep it up for several minutes and then rest, because they'll perform maybe 5, 6, 7 exercises and then rest. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. With burst training, you'll perform 1, maybe 2 exercises, mostly 1 exercise. You'll go to complete failure, you'll take a rest as long as you need the rest to be for, so you're fully recovered and you can then explode. Significant difference. So when you don't see, and I want you guys to all chime in on this, Dr. Carey, you're going to chime in next. When you see people who don't necessarily transform aesthetically, it may be because they're not getting enough recovery, right? Because they're pacing themselves. I don't care how hard you work in CrossFit or any. Let's take CrossFit out, because I don't want to beat people up at CrossFit. Any type of training that keeps your heart rate elevated for a long period of time, you are not working as hard as if you rested completely between each set, because you're not recovered. You're actually doing pace training even if you're out of breath. And that's really difficult for people to understand. Dr. Kerr.
Well, whenever I hear that someone's not getting the kind of results that they want out of their workouts, I always think, the first thing I think of is, what is their hormonal balance and what is their diet? And so many of the patients that I'm seeing that are not getting what they want out of their exercise program are actually testosterone deficient. And I'm seeing that so often, even in very young men. And I think that's because of a lot of the environmental exposure to toxins that we have so much of now. So I think it's a combination of the type of exercise, like you're saying, but also on another level, I think diet is huge with regard to, because if you look good on the outside, you're healthy on the inside.
Are
right?
you trying to tell us that if I work my butt off 5 or 6 days a week for an hour each day, that I can't eat what I want? Is that what you're trying to tell us, medical Dr.
Absolutely.
Care?
In fact, I'm telling you that it's more important what you eat than how you work out. Even though
I'm
they're
giving
both,
up this show. I just
They're
can't handle it
both
anymore.
they're both very important, but I think an anti-inflammatory diet, which is if you want to go into that a little bit, but it's more of a plant-based diet.
So let's do that coming up next. We'll do the All About You show. It's about you. 888-787-1310. Call us with your questions, concerns, and where you think you need to go or want to go in 2015. 732 Sports Radio 1310. The Ticket. George DiGianni Train Station Fitness Show. All About You show today. We've had a lot of fun on the first half hour of the show. 888-787-1310. You direct the show. What do you feel you've not been successful with, or you have complied 100% with the instructions of anything that you've done over the past year or years, but failed to achieve the goal? Because something Dr. Mary Kerr just mentioned off air is sometimes people don't get the results they want because of hormone imbalances, and it's not their fault. So we have Dr. Mary Kerr here, pain management specialist. She's also an internist. We have Dr. Jeremy Webster here, chiropractic nutritionist, and Coach Mo, and myself. Call us with any questions, concerns you might have. 888-787-1310. Let's first go to Mike in Dallas. You're on the ticket.
Hi, good morning. I am a master's level runner. I'm 61 years old. I compete regionally. I only have about 45 minutes a day to work out. I've recently experienced what I would describe as a lumbar strain. Haven't been to a doctor, chiropractor, or anything like that. But because of my kind of short lifestyle effects, any recommendations on lower back strain affecting a runner? I know I don't balance very well with the weights and that sort of thing. So, any advice on that?
Before you go anywhere, we have Dr. Webster who's going to answer your question, maybe even Dr. Kerr, but you said you don't go well with the weights. What does that mean?
Well, I know that as I age, I used to be a competitive triathlete, and I would cross. I guess what I'm saying is I don't have time to cross train
Got it.
much anymore with the weights I try to fit in some abs, and this recent back pull. I'm not doing something right. I don't have time to stretch anymore. I've got about 45 minutes at lunch.
Okay, so let's let probably everybody here comment. We all have a comment. Dr. Webster.
Well, I was going to say you probably need to see a chiropractor just in case the joints in the lumbar spine aren't functioning properly. Get them moving again, and a lot of things will improve. But there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, it could be something completely different. A specialist does need to at least address this with you.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
No, you have more than that. Give us more than that.
Well, there's 10 different things
I know
we
there
can
are.
talk
You
about.
want Dr. Kerr to get in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, just getting you out of acute pain, there are a lot of things that we can do, and I work very closely with several chiropractors and believe that, you know, there's some things that I can do from a medical standpoint, such as injections, just trigger point injections, which is kind of like acupuncture with a kick. Sometimes that's a really good way to get the muscles relaxed, and then the chiropractor can really get better results.
Yeah, because if you're spasmed, you'll get less
Because
response.
what happens is the more your pain, your muscles tighten, the more it hurts.
Right.
And the more they hurt, the more they tighten, and you get into this cycle. So you need to do something to break the cycle. So I think trigger point injections are helpful if it is just a strain or a muscle spasm. But then you want to understand, why are you spasming all the time? And oftentimes magnesium is a huge component. You know, so many of us are deficient in magnesium. And I have so many athletes that I put on magnesium, but it has to be the right type of magnesium. It makes a huge difference with pain. And then I always push an anti-inflammatory diet, which is a more plant-based diet, or even a plant-based cleanse. But the magnesium that you want to look for is called magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate, because it's better absorbed and it doesn't cause as many GI side effects.
Do you like to use fish oil for anti-inflammation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Fish oil is huge for
Yeah.
Coach Mo.
Mike, as someone who coaches endurance athletes, marathoners, and specifically guys just like you, you have to start incorporating strength training. You have to get your glutes strong. Probably the primary reason your back and your lumbars, your lumbar issue is happening is because of weakness in your glutes. That is very, very typical in runners. So, I mean, if you need more help, let me know. I'll be glad to help you with this. But you have to start incorporating the strength training, especially at 61 years old.
So, Mike, I'd like to take a different approach. If you're doing, are you doing ab crunches?
I do the Marine Corps sit-up, which was kind of you interlace fingers behind. And
right. So let me stop you there. Okay. Let me stop you there, just because there are other people we want to get to and more top. I can share my opinion with you because I understand what you're doing.
Right.
Professor of Spine Biomechanics, Dr. Stuart McGill. You can go to backfitpro.com. That's his website.
Okay.
All, and I mean all doctors, orthopedic doctors, and the physical therapists, anyone who understands the mechanics of the body, know not to do certain exercises such as sit-ups or even crunches. They know this because of either Dr. Stuart McGill or people at Stuart McGill's level, because they produce the research, and that research then trickles down to the clinician. That clinician could be even a personal trainer. One of the worst things you can do is try to work your abs in a crunch or sit-up mode. The best way to do that is to think about how your body moves, how you get in and out of a car. You pick your child up, you put a basket on top of a shelf. Moving that way requires your entire abdominal region to become stronger. Do you get abs that way? Absolutely not. Does it make you stronger overall so you can move in different directions? And oh, by the way, help you move faster when you're running? Absolutely. I think in your field, Mo, a lot of people want to become faster, so they try to run faster and they try to run longer.
Yep.
But if they were to do more strength training, they would find that would be less effort to move faster and run longer.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
So that's something to keep in mind, Mike. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to let you hang up. I'm going to give Coach Mo's information out. It's eatrealandmove.com, eatrealandmove.com. Dr. Webster's CompleteHealthDallas.com, CompleteHealthDallas.com, Dr. Care.
careinstitute.com, and there's actually an anti-inflammatory cleanse on the website that you can watch a video on that gives you a full 5-day cleanse, instructions for pain.
Okay, so it's the All About You show. I've been talking about this, and I want you guys to direct the show, what works best for you. 888-787-1310. One of the things I talked about at the beginning of the show was fitness trends. And there's this trend that began last year, I think. It's going on now, and they think that it's going to be another big trend, and that is this treadmill training. Before I go off on it, I'd like one of you two people to discuss it. Dr. Webster?
I don't like it. When somebody asks me what type of machine to buy, if they mention machine treadmill, I say, no, save your money. They're expensive, and there's not...
But
you
there
can,
are
you
these
can do some
studios
things.
now
You
that
can-
have treadmill
It's called
training.
Tread Fitness.
Yeah, you can actually do burst training on a treadmill, which is running on a treadmill,
Sure.
but it's real dangerous. I
Absolutely.
mean, you slip, you can get hurt easily on that. So I say
Absolutely. Face
don't
plant.
do it. It's
And that creates
it's not a
imbalances
great way.
also.
Yeah, so go ahead. Talk about tread training.
Well, it's
Treadmill.
the same thing we were just talking about with Mike. Yes, you're going to get some initial results, as you would with any program that you just start when you clean up your diet a little bit. But where is the resistance? Where is the balance
Right.
in musculature? You lose that when you do these types of one-dimensional programs.
That's a good point, a one-dimensional program. Brad and Alan, you're on the ticket.
Hey, George. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
My question is, I belong to a gym where they offer to measure your heart rate, say at resting and then at certain levels of exertion, and then they build a cardio program around keeping your heart rate in particular zones at particular times. And I wondered the validity of something like that versus doing just burst training.
I got this. It's stupid. It's 40-year-old technology. It's worthless. What they're doing is they know that at a certain heart rate, basically you're still in an aerobic zone, which means you're more or less burning fat. You're in this fat burning zone. It sounds logical that would be the best way for you to burn body fat, but it works actually completely against you. As I mentioned earlier in the show, when you burn sugar as your primary source during exercise, you burn fat all day long at 9 times the rate. So what you're doing is exactly the opposite. You're making sure that you use fat as your primary energy source, which means you're going to be terrible at burning fat all day long.
So just to let you know, Brad, while you're sitting here listening to the show, you're aerobic, you're burning fat. And if, let's say you had 30 pounds to lose, just to make that up for a moment, I'd have to step back for a moment and use Dr. Phil saying, how's that working for you? Right? And I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just if what you're doing isn't working by doing a lot of aerobic training, and I say you, I mean it as universally anybody, and you're sitting around at home and you're still in a fat burning zone and you don't like that you have fat to lose, then it's obviously not working. You might want to try something else.
Excellent. Well, as a follow-up, just real quick then, would you consider swimming where you swim 45 seconds as hard as you can and then rest for a minute, or running uphill outside for 45 seconds, waiting for a minute? Is that an effective burst training regimen?
So yes and no. Yes, it is if you use something more than just swimming, because you don't want it to be one-dimensional. So it would be yes, but it would be no if you just use swimming, because we need, a lot of swimmers don't recognize this, we need gravity. We need to be able to load the bone. And when you're in a pool or when you're in space, you don't load
Great
the
point.
bone.
Yeah,
Great point.
absolutely.
Great point.
Yeah, swimming is great for aerobic exercise, but for strength training, it's not as good. And if you notice, swimmers do have a little bit more fat on their body when you look at swimmers compared to.
Well, even lean swimmers.
Yeah.
My point is that we need to load the bone, and so we have to get away from that one-dimensional way of doing something. I remember Paul Chek is he teaches trainers. He has something called the Chek Institute, and it's pretty involved. It's in depth. It's intense, and he talked about a story where someone was called into a grocery store, I believe, and this person kept having this same injury, and this was a cashier. You remember this story?
Yeah.
You want to tell the rest?
No, go ahead.
And so correct me if I'm wrong. And the cashier was taking groceries from one side and moving them to the other. Doesn't matter which side. She, I think it was a female, from one side to the other, kept getting injuries. He decided to turn the person a different direction and make them do it from one way to the other. Because whenever we do, and am I right, Mo?
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever we have a repetitive motion, it's the same motion over and over and over, even if it's strength training, you're most likely going to cause imbalance and become injured. What the disconnect is that we don't recognize that it's a movement we've been doing hundreds of times or thousands of times that caused it. We just believe and want to base it on something that happened a day or a week before.
I want to take it one step
Or
further.
picking up the newspaper.
One step further. Let's not discourage swimming, because if you do,
Sure.
as Brad mentioned, and you sprint swim, like where you go to exhaustion in 45 seconds, that's a fantastic burst. It just needs to be a component of your burst training, not your entire routine.
And
And
when
it's a-
Samantha and I are in the pool at Equinox Health Club, we don't swim, but we do strength training in the pool, a bunch of different exercises.
And it's a great way to do burst training without the impact on your body.
Right. 15 times more resistance in water than the air. Think about that for a moment. All right, so coming up next, more of the All About You show. 888-787-1310. The ticket will take more of your questions and comments. 745 Sports Radio 1310. 750 Sports Radio 1310. The ticket. George DiGianni Train Station Fitness Show. It's been a great show today. Dr. Mary Care, careinstitute.com, Dr. Jeremy Webster, CompleteHealthDallas.com, Coach Mo, EatRealAndMove.com. You have myself, George DiGianni, 21DayBodyMakeover.com. Any questions you have for any of us, we'd love to be at your service and answer them. Today's been the All About You show. We love when people call in and take us all over the place. It's never about one particular topic, and the whole show is geared around that topic. So we have somebody, Joe in Denton, who wants to take us in a different direction. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so I work nights at a hospital and go to school during the day, and I'm finding that I'm getting less and less time to work out. And I've started to put on quite a bit of weight, even though, my wife, I feel like she cooks pretty healthy. And so I'm wondering if some of the things advertised at infomercials late at night, specifically a product called T25, which my understanding is that it's kind of like burst training, if that's something good to go with, or if it's better to just hit the weights and do something more so like kind of what y'all have been talking about.
Joe, how much does it cost? Roughly.
Probably about $100.
Okay, we just saved you about $100.
It might be kind of like burst training, but it's not burst training. It's pretty much what we've been talking about the whole show. It's more of a go, go, go type of a training versus a go till you're exhausted and then rest, and then go till you're exhausted and then rest. When my patients come to me and they ask me about these programs, I say, use them for the types of exercise. They give you a lot of options of different exercises to do, but then do the exercise in burst training fashion. Do the exercise that you're doing to complete exhaustion, and then rest, and then repeat, and then hit pause on the DVD.
Right.
You don't do it at their pace, because they're basically turning this high intensity training into just straight aerobic training.
Some people will respond well, because when you see these infomercials, you'll see people who got really good results. They show before and afters, and those are people like Mo mentioned earlier. You go from zero exercise to exercise. It doesn't matter if it's the goofy Hollywood diet and you drink lemon juice the entire day and brush your teeth. You're going to lose weight and become more fit looking. So these people are getting good results. What I don't like is the long-term effect, keeping your heart rate up, chronic inflammation that it creates. Even if you look good, doesn't mean the insides are as good. And then the other part I'd like to say is, I'll have to disagree with you, Dr. Webster, about all of the exercises that are involved. They give you a good amount of exercises. However, some of the exercises are dangerous. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you do what's the old mentality of bodybuilder training, where you have a dumbbell in each hand and you bring them out to your sides for lateral raises for your shoulders and the back in, think about how much leverage you take away from your body opposed to give to your body. And when it's further away from you, you're going to cause more challenge. It's already a challenging exercise to do the quote-unquote correct way. So there are certain exercises in there I feel are dangerous. Mo?
Yes, absolutely, and especially if you do any sort of plyometric type movement, which is a large in part what I believe is what that program is. If you take someone sedentary or that you work all the time and you go to school all the time, still doesn't mean that you're balanced. So if you take that individual that's already out of breath and you make them do jump squats or split jump squats or anything like that, you run a high risk of damaging the knee, the hip, and the back.
And also keep in mind that he mentioned something very important. He's working nights. That's associated with weight gain. He's also a student. So your cortisol levels are probably extremely high, which means that you're becoming very insulin resistant with the higher levels of cortisol. And anything that you take in is going to be more likely to turn to fat. And so weight gain is going to be a big problem. And so, you know, melatonin is a huge important hormone that you produce at night, and you don't produce it if you sleep during the day. And
growth hormone.
Growth hormone is profoundly affected by differences in sleep cycles. So I think working nights is really dangerous long term, and I caution my patients not to work nights if at all possible. Although I understand.
So if you do have to work nights, what I heard from you is potentially pull back on the calories.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do
Carbs.
perform burst training.
Yes.
But he said he's limited on time. I want everyone to really grasp this because it's quite important. You can become extraordinarily fit with 12 minutes of exercise
Absolutely.
4 days per week. We don't have enough time to discuss it on the show now, but if you've listened to any of these shows that talk about the benefits of burst training and some of what we mentioned today, then you understand how you can do 12 minutes, even 10 minutes of exercise, 15 minutes of exercise, not time in the gym or rests. Exercise that may equate to 20 minutes of beginning to perform a movement and finished with a movement.
And it could be spread throughout the day.
Right. So, Dave, you want to take this last one real fast? Let's go to Albert in Dallas. You're on the ticket.
Yes, sir. Mr. George,
Good morning to you.
54-year-old white boy in Dallas. I was used to be a triathlete. I swim, and I do sunstone yoga pretty regularly. But I do not get into weight training. And I want to define, if you could define like burst training, weight training for me. I just need some. I hear it all the time, and you just kind of help me on that.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Albert. So when we talk about burst training, it doesn't have to be swimming, it doesn't have to be sprinting, it doesn't have to be weights, but it could be. It could be using the big ropes you see people flailing around. It could be jump rope. It could be boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want all of you, people heard enough from me today, all of you to expand upon this. Each of you have 1 minute. Mo, you go.
Yeah, like you said, it could be any movement. The key with this is making sure you're doing it with proper form, like we just talked about with the T25 and all that stuff. It's great, but if it's done improperly, you're going to exacerbate or even worsen your likelihood of injury. So it can be anything. Rows, 20 seconds, as many as you can do with heavy weight.
What's a row?
A seated lat row works your back of your body. Anything like that.
Dr. Kerr.
Well, I think interval training is a good way to go if you're limited on time. And I think if you Google something called peak A training, it's what I personally do. I have very limited time. I have 2 small children and a full-time job. So 15 minutes, I'm completely done with my workout. I do it 4 times a week, and former triathlete. So this is how I maintain what I've built over the years. And so it's 20 seconds is hard, 20 to 30 seconds as hard as you can go with a recovery, and do it 8 times, and it improves your fat burning all day and your insulin resistance, which is key to elevated growth hormone, elevated health, anti-aging.
He specifically, I want you, before you comment.
Specifically with weights?
With weights.
With weights, you can do just traditional compound weight movements like a squat or a leg press or a bench press or a chin up. Probably need a little bit of a weight assist on a chin up. But if you do any of those with moderately heavy weights where you can get at least 12 to 15 reps, maybe even up into the 20 or 25 rep range, where you start to feel that muscle burn at complete failure, then you're doing burst training. If you're doing the weight so heavy where you can only do 6 reps, that's more powerlifting, so that's not exactly burst training, but you can still mix a few of those in if you'd like. Compound movements where you work a lot of muscle though.
Dr. Kerr, one of the things that bothers me about females with what we're discussing is they don't like to feel the burn. They don't like to do weight training.
Key. You've got to feel the burn, and
They stop at the burn opposed to those 5 reps.
Yeah,
beyond.
you need to go beyond the burn in order to get the maximum benefits with regard to insulin sensitivity, which is really the key.
Years ago, when I used to train women for getting ready for their weddings, and they would become really fit, and it was because of burst training. But years ago when I was training, it wasn't called burst training. It was just what we knew to do that worked. And by the way, and I've mentioned this many times before, burst training has been scientifically studied since 1993. 1993 we've known about this. And when I say we, I mean personal trainers who are on the cutting edge have known about this and got their clients in very fit shape very fast. So when I trained Michael Dale and Mark Cuban, you think these guys had an hour a day to dedicate to exercise?
No.
Every single time I saw Mark Cuban, he would say, got to get in fast. I have 15 minutes. I have 20 minutes. I have half hour. And I had to tailor that program to him.